Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing the laziest way to get your ex back. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. Check out my socials for extra content. The links are in the description. So now let's get back into today's podcast. And today we are discussing the laziest way to get your ex back. So if you've been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, you might not feel able or bothered to put in much effort to reconnect, even though you want to. In today's podcast, I'll be explaining the laziest way to get your ex back in 3 points. But is it too good to be true? So let's get straight into this. And point number 1 is, what is it? Well, in my opinion, the laziest way to get your ex back is using a method that I refer to as rusting radio silence. Rusting meaning to become less active, losing sharpness, metaphorically gathering rust from inactivity. You don't go anywhere. You don't do anything. Your friends ask you to go out, and you either don't feel able to, or you can't be bothered. You're low energy. You're staying at home all of the time. You also, despite having opportunity to do things at home, decide that you won't do that either. You don't do any online courses. You don't do any exercise, even within your own house. You just, in essence, stay at home every day doing absolutely nothing. Maybe watching some TV, but it doesn't inspire you, it doesn't teach you, it doesn't encourage you, it doesn't even particularly make you feel happy. It's just mind-melting TV that you are watching. It's nothing that's going to take you to the next level. You spend most days just doing this absolute nothingness. You don't feel that you have the energy to do anything in particular, and you're not even asking for any degree of help or support in lifting you from this mindset. Even when your friends are saying, hey, okay, you won't come out with us, can we come to you and have a good time and put a smile on your face? You say, no, I don't want you to come. You perhaps leave the house to go to work, but even if you do that, you come home as soon as you can, doing nothing else. And this is why I add the word rusting to this concept. Rusting radio silence. But what is the radio silence aspect? Well, not only are you doing nothing in the respect to what I've described so far, but you're also doing nothing on social media. You're doing nothing in a way which could get back to your ex. So from your ex's perspective, you have literally disappeared. Perhaps you used to be active on social media, but all of that is gone. You haven't necessarily deleted your profiles. You haven't necessarily blocked your ex. In fact, you probably haven't done either of those things. You've just left everything exactly as it was, but are no longer uploading content. You're no longer doing anything to suggest that you're active in any single way. And that is why we call this radio silence. There are other versions of radio silence where people are still doing their own thing in their own life, but they're just inactive online. They're no longer maybe meeting friends of friends. They're not meeting mutual friends, family members who might pass on info to their ex. Maybe they're avoiding those people, but in a regular radio silence, you would still be spending time with other people, other friends, other family members who don't know your ex. You would still likely be doing your thing, trying to grow as a person, but in normal radio silence, you would just be making sure that you don't go online, you don't let anything get back to your ex. That's the difference between radio silence and rusting radio silence. Rusting radio silence is literally everything has stopped. Everything has ended in regards to your input into life. You perhaps go to work, but you come straight back and do nothing. Maybe you no longer work. Perhaps you had a job and sadly you don't feel able to do it anymore. Maybe you didn't have a job at this time, Maybe you were doing a course which you have now quit. You see where I'm going on this? Rusting radio silence is not just about cutting off communication with your ex. It's not just about making sure that they no longer find out stuff about you via social media, friends of friends, whatever it may be. You're also just spending all of your possible free time doing nothing. Nothing productive, nothing at all. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast. Please like this video if you're watching on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. And point number 2 is, how can this get my ex back? So today we're speaking about the laziest way to get your ex back. And therefore, the clue is in the title that this rusting radio silence is possible to get your ex back. Now, how can this be the case? How can rusting radio silence, as negative as it sounds, actually get your ex back? I'm sure you can agree at this stage, but it's certainly a very lazy outlook to try and reconnect with an ex. I'm not saying that you should feel high energy during this time, because you are likely struggling, and that is a very sad and serious situation that many people go through. But if you think of things with a clear mindset when possible, try and look at things clearly, I'm sure you would see that there is a difference between feeling low energy and literally doing nothing. And we're talking about literally doing nothing here. This is the situation why I believe it is the laziest way to get your ex back, but you can get your ex back nonetheless. And the reason why it works, the reason for how you can get your ex back from this, is because since you're giving your ex nothing at all, they will likely start to wonder about you. Now, in most instances, if you have been dumped, I suggest that you never contact your ex again unless they contact you first. There are sometimes caveats to my rule. My version of a no contact rule is bespoke, so there are going to be differences due to your specifics. But generally speaking, in a generalized sense, if you've been dumped, I suggest that you never contact your ex again unless they contact you first. So we can see from that first aspect, never contacting your ex again, that during rusting radio silence is exactly what you'd be doing. You would not be contacting your ex. Now, on top of that, you are no longer posting on social media. There's no content going on there. Now, what does that mean? Well, I suggest that is the second best option. The worst option is posting negative things online. That's the worst option. The best option is posting positive things online, which showcase you as growing as a person and improving every single day, becoming a dateable individual once more. That is the best option. The middle option, the second best option, is posting nothing at all. Now, although that might not be the best option, it's certainly not the worst, and it can be very effective, because your ex-dumper is getting nothing from you at all. Remember, you're not mixing with friends either. So your ex-dumper, from their perspective, sees you as vanishing. You've completely vanished. And this will start to pull on them. They will start to wonder. They will start to think, well, where is my dumpy? I didn't want my ex-dumpy to chase me. I didn't want my ex-dumpy to contact me. But I thought they would. I expected them to. They haven't. This is going to start pulling on them. It's going to start making them wonder. And this wonder can actually develop into missing you. In particular, because there's nothing appearing on social media. In particular, because there are no mutual friends passing on info, it's like you've disappeared into thin air. Your dumper can't understand this. They're really, really confused. Where's my dumpy? I don't want them to chase me, but where are they? I thought they would. They're not being my safety net. My life isn't going quite as I expected, but I always thought my dumpy would be in the background, waiting for me, and they don't seem to be. They've gone. Do they have a new girlfriend or a new boyfriend? Have they moved to a different country? Where are they? What's going on? I'm confused. This will start to pull on your dumper. This will start to regrow romantic emotional attraction in their mind. It probably won't grow to the level of if you had behaved in the best possible way, but the fact that you've just gone radio silent in this degree is going to create wonder and intrigue in your ex's mind, pulling them in the right direction to actually starting to miss you. And if someone misses you, You are really moving along the line of how to get your ex back. So your ex-dumper will get to the crossroads. They will get to the point where they ask themselves, do I prefer my life right now, or do I miss my dumpy enough to reach out to them? Do I think I've made a mistake? Now your ex-dumper is unlikely to be living the exciting, wonderful life that you worry they are doing so. Certainly not when we are 5, 6, 7 months post-breakup. Anything that they may have been doing initially, which may have seemed fresh and new and exciting, has likely started to fade away. They are likely single, they are likely starting to question themselves, and they don't hear anything from you, so they don't know what's going on. They're wondering what's going on in your life. They're starting to think that you're happy that they are no longer with you. Things are turning around, the power balance has shifted, and you've done absolutely nothing. This is the laziest possible way to get your ex back, because at the crossroads, if your ex-dumper concludes that they have made a mistake and that they do miss you, well, they will reach out to you. Now, in this perspective, you have a few options. You could just ignore their text. You could reply in a negative way. But if you, as in today's podcast is the way, you want to get them back, but you just can't really be bothered to do anything, well, once you receive that text from them, you'll probably think, oh, well, this is good. I'm not really putting in much effort, but I will reply in a very basic kind of sense. Your ex-dumper sees the reply, and they're thinking, they're not really showing a whole lot of interest. This is starting to intrigue me even more. Now, I don't suggest that you respond in a negative way. I don't suggest that you respond in a dismissive way either. But if you so happen to respond in a way which isn't particularly high energy, but it's just enough to make your ex-dumper actually think, well, I don't know what to do here. They don't seem to be pushing me away per se, but they're not really that interested. If you somehow, ironically, start to turn the wheel once more on their intrigue and their wonder via your message, even though you're not really putting in any effort into what you send, this is going to grow attraction even further, to the point where your ex-dumper might actually ask to meet you. Now, this isn't the way of things that I would generally suggest you do, but there is always multiple possibilities. Sometimes people could get their ex back in a way that I would suggest only works less than 1% of the time, because there are no guarantees. Nothing works 100% of the time and nothing fails 100% of the time. But in this instance, I wouldn't even suggest that it's about lower odds. I would say that if you are behaving in the way that I've described during this interaction, it could somewhat easily pull your ex-dumper even further in towards you. Might not be the best option, might not be the best way I would suggest, but it is a way that can work. So you then find that your ex-dumper and yourself are meeting up, and at this stage, you're starting to think, I did want my ex back, and this is kind of good. So I'm really excited to meet them and to reconnect. And when you meet, your ex-dumper clearly shows that they want to reconnect. Everything is amazing. You are back together. But is everything what it seems? And is everything too good to be true? Now, if you would like advice and support about how to try and increase the chance of one day getting your ex back, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you can speak one-on-one about your unique specific situation. Go to my website, www.dateme.tips, for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. Talking about your feelings can also improve your mental health. It helps prevent the buildup of negative emotions, which can lead to stress, anxiety, depression, and even physical health issues. Speak your heart to free your mind. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast. If you feel that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description. And point number 3 is this too good to be true? And unfortunately, in your instances, Dumpy, I would suggest, yes, this is too good to be true. Because when we consider what exactly is going on right now, you have luckily attracted your ex back. You have luckily got your ex-dumper to the stage where they missed you. You luckily got your ex-dumper to the stage where they wanted to reach out to you, to meet you, and the initial euphoria of meeting has luckily got you back together. But this is where you sadly would have tripped up. And remember, today's podcast was called The Laziest Way to Get Your Ex Back. It wasn't called The Laziest Way to Be With Your Ex Forever. Now, there is a big difference there. Yes, you've got them back, but I would suggest that if you get your ex-dumper back by using something such as rusting radio silence, well, unfortunately, you will likely be dumped again in the near future. And the reason for this is once your ex-dumper establishes that you haven't done anything positive with your life, you haven't evolved, you haven't grown, you certainly haven't become a version 2.0. If anything, you're a version 0.5. You're a version 0.5 of yourself. The way that you attracted your ex was by luck. And even though you might say, well, we make our own luck. Okay, you've got them back, that's great. But what foundation is this built upon? Because when your ex-dumper asks you the questions, what have you been doing in the last few months? What have you been doing in the last year? And you have nothing to say. When your ex-dumper realizes that you don't actually look in particularly great physical shape, you might not look a whole lot worse than when you were together, but certainly no better. When your ex-dumper realizes that the job you once had, you no longer do, and the reason you lost that job and never tried to find anything else is because you lost energy, desire, you lost impetus, you just couldn't be bothered to try and do anything more. These things are not appealing. One of the most attractive traits is ambition. If you're not showing ambition, then that is not going to help your cause with a lot of people. If you don't have a desire for life, if you don't mix with different people, if you're not a dateable option because others want to spend time with you, then what does that mean? Your ex-dumper is going to view you as someone that, okay, they felt like they was intrigued, they felt like they missed you, but do they really want to stick with you? When they consider that you live at home alone, you don't go anywhere, you don't do anything, the friends that you had are now distant because you didn't want to spend time with them, they've drifted apart. You have nothing going for you in your life, no progress, no benefits, nothing which is going to take you to the next level, nothing on the horizon, nothing which could be deemed as a goal that you're moving towards. You are going to lose appeal to your now relationship, to your former ex, to that person back in your life. You will start to appeal less and less and less very, very quickly. Now, it's true that dumpers generally grow less than dumpees, but if you are someone using rusting radio silence, then you're certainly going to have grown even less than your dumper, because even though they generally grow less than dumpees, in this regard, they would have certainly grown more than you. And if you two are not growing in the same direction, if you two are not growing at a similar pace, which you won't have been, you are not likely to be compatible in the long term or even in the medium term in this respect. I think your ex-dumper would probably get to the point of where they think, well, I did start to miss my ex, but now I'm starting to remember why I dumped them in the first place. In fact, they're actually in a worse position in life than when I actually was with them previously. I can't believe I actually came back to them. What was I thinking? And sadly, you as a dumpee would likely be dumped again.